I just had a pretty long conversation and thought-provoking one with Mario, the founder of 4-6 Fitness. I think a lot of the topics we discussed could be potentially controversial, and I just wanted to hop on here real quick to say would love to hear what you guys think. If you could throw some comments in the YouTube, I'd greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the conversation. Thank you. Today on the Garage Gym Experiment podcast, I have Mario Ragu. He is the owner, founder, I'm guessing only employee of 4-6 Fitness. He's been on the scene for a few years. It's been, it's been a little bit dramatic. We're here, and I'm here with him to let him explain his story. We're just going to have a general discussion about how that came to be, how his business came to be. He has shown quite a bit of interest, specifically, I would say, over the last 6 months with the survey results. So he pings me every time, not every time, but a lot of times when he sees survey results, and he's like, just gives a little insight into why he thinks the results are the way he is, or here's some questions you should ask. So I appreciate that. I always appreciate any, attention to those surveys. It makes me feel of value. But yeah, Mario, thanks for hopping on. And let's start off by just, can you give me a little bit of background on who you are, maybe outside of this home gym fitness? I'd love to hear. I think you've mentioned you were in different industry beforehand. You've served in the Navy. So I'd love to hear about that.
So this is not me bragging, but you're asking. So I'm a third generation cabinet maker. After high school, I went to T10, which is Toyota Automotive School. And growing up, I bounced back and forth between automotive and cabinets, doing those jobs. And then 2008 hit. I think it's 2015 or something happened. And I didn't believe in getting ASCs. And they're just certifications that mean nothing. And therefore, it was a hard job market. And I was literally living in my car. So I just decided to join the Navy at the age of 36, 37, somewhere around there. I was an aviation electrician in the Navy. After there, I got married the last years of my Navy to my wife, and she ran a school that taught people how to fabricate off-road parts called the Fab School. I actually attended to the Fab School and met her prior to me joining the Navy. And then after the fact, years later, we ended up getting married. From there, I started Ragu fabrication in my garage, just like everybody else. I collect tools, so I had all the tools, and then my mom loaned me money for a plasma. It snowballed. The company grew. We left California, moved to Texas, and my wife got involved in the company. She was the brains behind the business aspect, and I was the grunt, the gorilla behind making stuff. So we scaled that company. We grew it to a certain size. We sold it 3 years ago, and I didn't realize, you're like, cool, you sold the company. What are you going to do? I have zero cash flow. And I was probably, I'm 5'7". I was probably like 235, 40 pounds. I had a round belly. I drank a lot. I drank a lot in the Navy. So I started working out, and my wife was getting pissed. I was at the gym all the time. So I accumulated all the home gym stuff just immediately, because I'm like, it's all or nothing for me. It's pretty much how I am. And as I got to working out in the home gym and see what's on the market and stuff like that, I was like, holy crap. Everything looks like there's sticks welded together and nothing looks good. And so I decided to start designing gym products. The first thing I designed was the belt squat. And you have to realize I started this company 3 months into last year. So I'm a baby essentially in this world. And I was like, I don't have any of my tools anymore. I have a welder, but manufacturing something here to be competitive in this market is near impossible. So I started sourcing things in China and stuff like that. The belt squat didn't even come out till 6 months later, because it takes forever to get a prototype and then order it, so forth, so on. So as I was waiting on that, I was designing more and more products. Style is a big, big thing to me. It's very important to me for things to look good, because essentially they're just going to work in general, regardless, because you can literally weld a stick 2x4 together and call it a belt squat. It'll service the same function, but I want things to look good. So I started designing products in my style, like I did for Ragu fabrication. you're unique in a sense where I had a 3D scan the vehicle or reverse engineer off of that. So I took those design principles and I'm applying it to this. And there's people like Bridgeville that put style into their products, and a couple other companies, and I really appreciate it, because it's expensive to do that rather than just weld a stick together and call it a whatever you want. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. And
Right. Sounds good. Thank you for sharing. I think, I want to like hit the nail on the head right away. So I first came across you, I can't remember exactly how I came across you, but the big topic around you was your barbell storage, which
yeah,
was basically attacked for being a copy of
uh-huh,
Darko's Anchor.
uh-huh.
And Darko is a well known and beloved member of the home gym community,
Uh-huh.
making an American made product, kind of a
Right.
similar story. He kind of has a similar story as to like, he's just tinkering around in the garage and created a
Yeah.
product.
Right.
And, I think most of the diehard home gym people, kind of agreed with his take that it's a copy of his product
Mm-hmm.
and not cool. I would say just knowing like how early on in his business, not knowing anything about you,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like was like, yeah, it kind of seems like a
I'm
copy.
attacking him.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, not, no, I didn't think it was attacking him. Just knowing like, we've had products where the community does like kind of band together
Mm-hmm.
and like stick up for the original creator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like time has gone by and you still have that product, but you've also created like 20 more.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so, I just want to, and I am familiar, I am like, contact with Darko, like,
Yeah.
or I would not
Yeah.
contact. That's not the right way to say it,
It's
but I
it's a
have
small
like,
world. It's a small world.
it's a small world. He's been on my
Uh.
podcast. We've had
Yeah.
general chit chats. I met him in person at Home Gym Con.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear just like tell your side of the story in terms of the Anchor or the what is your product called? Just
The
barbell store,
solution.
the
The solution.
solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tell your side of how you decided to create it, and
Uh,
yeah, just let's do that.
so based on what I told you about my home gym thing and designing products, and putting style into it, I just simply designed a product that had my own take on it, not necessarily to go after him or any of that stuff. It wasn't even the fact that I designed the product because it was popular and wanted to generate sales in my infancy stage, because I already were designing products prior. I just wanted a product that had my style and it serves the same purpose. Obviously, you're going to choose the road, like it's a split Y, you're on one side or the other is divisive, but my side of the road simply is I want to design my own thing. It holds 4 barbells. It's not the same size as his. The height is not the same size as his because a customer, I saw it side by side. And it theoretically, if you want to be technical, it's not a direct copy. The concept is the same. It goes on the power rack and holds barbells. You know what I'm saying? His holds 2. I thought it was silly to stack 2 vertically, just so the headspace. So I made it horizontally to hold 4. You know what I'm saying? So it's simple as that. It has nothing to do with him. I like him. I think his style's great, like many others that have accents to their pieces. You know, if it wasn't for this drama, he released that adjustable dumbbell holder, right? And I could CAD that up literally in 3 hours for him and send the CAD files, and then he could send it to laser to manufacture. I'd much rather help him grow if I had the ability to, rather than fight. It's pointless. It's absolutely pointless to fight. And I I could argue the fact that we're blue in the face, but in all reality, diversification in the market is important, because when you have one option, you have one option. That's it. You know, and I'm not going to say competition good because it's just a cop out. You know what I'm saying? I just think there should be availability to different things, even if they serve the certain purpose. Just let the customer decide. You know, I remember I got blindsided just as much as anybody else here on this, because when I posted it, and I was like a nobody, and with my garage wasn't even fixed up. I barely had anything. And then who was it? Coach Cart started bashing me on social media. So I private messaged him, because I didn't want any drama in the first place. And I'm not scared. I'm not hiding behind anything. I wasn't then, and I'm not now. And, I rather just squash it and let's move on with our life and create product, help each other out. We all have talents in our own way. There's other companies I offer help and stuff like that because I have the ability to rapid prototype like nobody's business. 2 weeks ago, I designed 3 products. I'm super fast. So I rather be part of it than be ostracized from it. But I'm not going anywhere because I've invested so much time and money into this regardless, And I kind of feel like the home gym space is very niche and it's a small bubble, but the gym world is big. You know what I'm saying? And there's no reason to fight internally about something when we all can grow together for the most part.
Do you think it has impacted Darko's sales?
I don't think one bit. I don't think it ever does. I think it makes his sales stronger because there's conviction behind his brand. And it's kind of like the FU mentality. I'm going to buy this and screw this guy. I'm just going to buy it. I didn't want it, but I'm going to buy it to support you because I don't want to support them type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So remember that thing I sent you where they put the 2 soda machines together and it was Coca-Cola and Pepsi vending machine, and Coca-Cola had 100 sales a month. And then here comes Pepsi. And it wasn't a choice between, I want a soda. It was a choice between, do I want Coke or Pepsi? And both their sales grew together astronomically, way beyond the 100 a month mark. So if you understand the concepts of business, things play off each other, positive and negatively, but ultimately they do work in an overall a positive way,
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance of reconciliation?
It's up to him. I'm good. I've been doing this for so long. I have so much knowledge. I want to help people grow. I want to help people grow, even if they're my competitor. It doesn't matter. How many free workouts are there in the world? And a lot of those people, the company's owners, they're friends. And then they talk shop. What's your demographic? How you doing? Yeah, I had this problem. How'd you resolve that problem? Oh, no kidding. I should do that. But there's so much money in the world that's distributed. It's not lack of available sales you can get. It's just there's too much money in the world. You're talking about trillions of dollars, and that's not limited. We're not making the Mona Lisa where there's a scarcity in value. We're making gym equipment, and then it comes in phases, and you make a gym equipment that's cool, and next thing you know, nobody wants that, and it's washed out, and you're like, holy crap, I was hot shit today and nobody cares about me tomorrow. So those are just cycles of business, and it will go through those cycles, but if we don't help each other, we can't fix those cycles and stay on top of the up and down trends that could be potentially coming or not. You know what I'm saying? So I just think I have a different perspective because I've had business experience in the past and they haven't got there yet. Does that make sense?
I want. It does. I wonder, it sounds like you were in the automotive industry, and
I was.
Maybe there wasn't this community. I don't know the answer as to what's best for everything.
Move on with our lives, essentially.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out why you see this reaction in, the home gym community, whereas in the automotive industry, it's just normal. I don't know.
It's not normal. It does happen frequently in the automotive industry, but the automotive industry is really fast paced. And there's a lot of companies competing. So you have American-made companies making bumpers, and if you only have one car, we only have one body, right? And you only have one power rack. And a new model comes out, and the world changes. And, the old model nobody cares about anymore because the new model's out. So that's the cycle I'm talking about. That's what happens. But absolutely, it does. I design, they call ditch brackets. They go in the bottom corner of the hood. You've seen those lights at the base of the windshield that people have on their trucks. I literally was making ditch brackets. I designed them. I sold my product to somebody else and he resold them. When I moved to Texas, we changed our business model. He literally took my product, took it to a laser cutter, had it reversed engineer. You couldn't tell mine from his if it wasn't for my logo. That's copying. And he copied 6 of my products, literally. And I had patents on them. So we sued him. I sued him. I took him to court and I sued him. And it happens. And believe me, I was pissed. I was pissed because I didn't have the background that I have now. If I had the background that I had now back then, I wouldn't be pissed. I would just find a resolution, or move past it. I designed molly panels for the rear of the 4Runner. And, you know how many people make those now? It's disgusting. I had another kid in Arizona who bought my product, literally copied my product, changed the logo. It was identical. And we sued him. And all he had to do is redesign the exterior design of it and no problems. But he still had a molly panel. It's not like the product can't be made. It's the shape and design that changed. And the lawyer's like, tough crap. Even if you have a patent on it, it serves the same function, but it's a different design. You know what I'm saying? So it does happen. I just think there's a lack of knowledge on that. I mean, look at Titan, for God's sake. They do something similar as Rogue. I'm not too familiar with Titan's product line. It's not my thing, but nobody's crying about them.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So,
okay.
Jason Cam, I would want to, if you were in this position, I'd want to hear what your advice is. So Jason Campbell of Surplus Strength, he created the stealth spotters. Are you familiar with those?
I am, yeah.
So so they are, they take up less space and they're easier to connect and they're rock solid.
Right.
And there's been, it's really like, if you're a company you're just not going to be able to sell a premium spotter arm with the old design because this one's just improved. So he had there's definitely some very, very similar designs that are popping off.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And maybe you have a design in the works, but
I have my own version. It's not like him, but it's a spotter arm, just the same. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I'd just be curious to hear what would you say? What's the best advice for somebody in that situation?
So I think there's two things at play here. Okay. And it's apple to apples, but it's not really. So he designed a spotter arm and he was successful at it. I think it's we'll just call it $500, right? And you have color options. I think he produces on demand or small batches of whatever. So he's hand welding them and he's making them in the States. And I know how expensive that is. I think the other products we'll call it similar, are also made in the States. Their construction is minutely different than his. In all reality, either you outmarket them, to outmarket your competitor, or come up with nuances to make small improvements, whether it's the plastic on the top is better, right? Or I have color options and you don't. It made tweaks to it to improve it because of customer feedback that I was doing. It's just constant tweaks and evolution to just get one step, because you're running a race, we're all runners together. We're running the same race. And at the end of the race, there's camaraderie. But during the race, we're racing. But it doesn't mean we can't enter the race as friends, be competitive in the middle, and then celebrate at the end because we finished the race. You know what I'm saying? But when you're racing against somebody, you're in the trenches training, whether you be like, oh, he's talking crap to me, and it just makes you train harder and push forward a little bit harder. Or you get my point what I'm trying to make. We're in the same race, but like I said, there's a lot of money in the world. I laugh because I see what people do right? And their buying trends and what they purchase and don't purchase or repurchase. I listened to podcasts with a man who parks in the garage, right? He bought the Cadillac bar. He said, he sold it. He sold it and then bought the Cadillac bar again and then sold it and bought something else. Now, why couldn't you say they're going to do that with this spotter arm? You know, maybe they bought the competition. They're like, I don't really like it. They sold it. And then they bought his. So it's a cycle. It's not one and done in this culture. You know, they cycle, they change. People want the new, just like clothing line. You know, you want to be in a hard business, make clothing. That's competitive. You know what I'm saying? But it goes through cycles. You have new people coming in, you have old people going out, just like in the automotive industry, any business. So there's never short of clients. You know what I'm saying? There's never a client shortage. I really think I'm kind of going to turn this on the voices, like podcasters and stuff like that. I was thinking about this the other day, is the words and the articulation of how it articulates and comes out is like, it's a do or die situation type of thing. I don't think I can explain myself right. The choice of words choices of words you guys have a big impact in the industry. You know, whether it's unique is often used, it's unique. What's unique about it? It's never discussed about what's unique about it. It's just say it's unique, you know? But you have to realize all these things are tools to build muscle, theoretically. When you build a house, you know, I like DeWalt and I like Milwaukee. Those are my favorite brands. I don't buy the other brands, but I see them as equal. Whatever's available, I'll buy. But those are my favorite brands, right? And if the DeWalt breaks, I'll probably buy the Milwaukee. But cycles happen. And like I said, the lack of customers, but they're acting like there's a scarcity of customers. But the market isn't as small as people think. Because I sell to tons of personal trainers the products I'm designing, and gyms are buying my stuff. It might say home gym. I might focus on like in the marketing aspect of it. But the market's huge and they all bleed over to a bigger industry. You know what I'm saying? So to act like, oh, you copied me and there's only 5 customers you can retain and that's it is foolish as a business owner and having business knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does.
So it's a bigger market than what the home gym community thinks. But I've noticed
Totally.
The dialogue in which is spewed between like the influencers, all this stuff is a revolving door. You know, it's like I'm watching CNN tells CNNBC and then sells the other networks and they all say the same rhetoric. And I'm like, oh my God, but California is burning to the ground and you're talking about this. This is the topic, you know? And there's so many different products on the market. Oh my God. I'm like, holy crap. I had no clue this existed, but nobody's talking about in the home gym space. But they want to bring awareness to stuff, but they're not bringing awareness. All they're bringing awareness is a small handful of brands when there's tons of brands outside the bubble. You know, I call it a bubble because it is, and it really should just be popped. So all these other brands, especially for you that in the home gym con space, that bring in a different demographic, serves the same market. You know, and not necessarily a bodybuilding market, but there's companies that do bands, which is a powerful tool for exercise, you know, and all these other type of things to serve people in like the physical fitness space, and the personal trainer space, which is catered to a dynamic of age range between like 30 to 65, you know what I'm saying? And like all that, there's so much out there. But the podcasters are talking about this much of a space that's this much. You know, I sent Luke's Garage a thing I saw on social media today where it worked out your calves. It was pretty interesting that it's spring loaded. It was hard to explain to break out of that bubble because it's like collapsing on itself. You know what I'm saying? There's all these companies trying to think they're fighting for a small demographic when the demographic is really substantially bigger. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I think, as far as like the podcasting world, I would say, people just they just talk about what is presented to them or what they are most familiar with.
Yeah.
As I'm doing, you made a good point. Like as I'm doing the home gym kind of outreach, I really am trying to broaden it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do see all of these companies that would get value from coming into this home gym community.
Mm-hmm.
And if more companies come into this home gym community, more people will become aware of,
Yes.
this world and how it
Yes.
can help your life.
Yes.
I also think as far as like the way I think about just home gym influencers and content
Mm-hmm.
creators
Mm-hmm.
and people just who love this stuff is it's like the sports center, but just for the home gym world. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's just like, there's always people love talking about hypothetical stuff. You hear it on sports and like sports teams as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
what if X wasn't hurt? Would they have won the Super Bowl? Like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, or making predictions about who's going to win
Mm-hmm.
in 2026, the Super Bowl already. And like that's like us. Like we're chit-chatting about, who do we think, I don't know, it's like y'all are sports teams almost.
Yeah,
And we're,
right. It
you
seems like
know,
that. But what happens after the game? Good game, dude. I whipped your ass. I'm sorry, but hey, there's always next year, right? There's not this. There's never this. When they're in the game, they jack up each other. They push their head into the ground. They use them as props to push themselves up after the tackle. But after the game, there's none of this. And
yeah.
when the talking heads create this, it creates a bad culture. A really bad culture. And if you guys are talking to the same people, that culture is like toxic, complete toxicity. I'm not trying to diffuse the Darko thing at all. I'm just a viewer from the outside looking in, because, the spotter arm company you mentioned, and then there's PRX, and it's a snowball effect of complete disgusting negativity. It has nothing to do with the gym community, but gets people's attention in the wrong way, and you guys have the power. You guys have a lot of power to change that dynamic. I'll give you an example. I designed the dead blow handle, and coincidentally, it literally a coincidence. Porterville came out with his, and I told him, "Good job, dude. It's not like mine. His is different than mine. They have But it doesn't mean that person couldn't buy both of them. It doesn't mean that look and feel of how it worked couldn't serve two different purposes. But yet it seems like there's a competition. It's not. It's not that way. It's a tool you use in the garage. If you have I don't know example, just the barbells, for God's sake. People own like 30 of them, but the barbell companies aren't saying, screw that guy. He's barbells at POS, and this stuff like that. No, the customer collects 30 barbells because they all have different purposes and different uses. It's just the culture's been built on such tension. If you haven't noticed that it's not camaraderie like everybody talks about. You know what I'm saying? They talk about camaraderie, but at the back end, they're verbally bashing people. And you can look at it at home gym, the Facebook group, or even just Discord alone is like, that's a wildfire, Heaven forbid you say something wrong. It's just, it's a mess there. I even saw your comment about, hey, why don't we just chill out? And they pretty much told you to go F yourself on Discord. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is the culture that these people set up, which you guys have the power to diffuse and break. You know what I'm saying? I see this happening, which has happened to me. I'll give you an example. I create the flat trap bar. Okay. And then the Mag company. I forget the full name.
Yeah.
They created a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did something similar. Well, I have people bashing me on my flat because Mag came out. Like, why? You never use both of them side by side. They could serve a different purpose. You might like both, you know? Uh, any pull down cable, it does the same thing, but they have different looks and feels, and you probably own both. Why are you bashing somebody and creating that toxicity? Be like, oh, I had the flat bar. I wonder how this feels. You know what I'm saying? And the pros and cons. Let's talk about the pros and cons, not bashing the other company for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Wait, so I just think it should improve, in my opinion, so we can work together as a team, like football. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. A few things. So number one, I just want to let you know, like, I come from the perspective of, where was I going with this? So I come from the perspective of like this home gym community. You know, there's been home gyms for many years. But like it really did, you know, it kind of began around COVID. And you know, along with like, you know, digital tools that bring people together, you know, because, you know, it's in the modern age where you can easily connect. So I think like why I really love having these conversations is I feel like we're all kind of growing up together, you know? So like these conversations are important. Like maybe there are differences. And with that, I don't think, I've said this before, I don't think everyone has this figured out. Like, I don't think there's a single answer to certain things. So it's just complicated. So like navigating this in the early years is important, and having these conversations, hopefully the right people, you know, I'm not saying you're right, you know,
Right.
you know, I just want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to speak. With that, you know, I'd love for people to like put their thoughts in the comments. I also think like number two is, you know, when you like hate somebody or you see this in politics. I'm
I've
just
been
saying, like
there.
when you, it's hard to listen to the other
I,
side. You're just so blindsided.
it,
So I
yeah,
think like I want to make sure like from both sides that you hear each other out. Hopefully,
yeah,
you know, I'm not saying it's all on Darko. I'm not saying it's all on you.
yeah. So everything has ramifications, and this is not a threat; it's a reality. When someone goes on social media and accuses them of stuff, there could be heavy ramifications. I'm honestly surprised PRX didn't sue what's his face, because if I
Kyle.
owned PRX, he would have had a lawsuit the very next day, and I would have made his life a living hell. I promise you. If I had PRX, he is so lucky. And I texted him. I said, hey, because it happened to me, because when that guy copied me, he sued me for defamation, and my mouth had to be shut, or I would have been shit out of luck. He would have just came after me. And it's possible. You know what I'm saying? People don't understand how the real world works. And when you think, even he's like, well, I'm right. I said, it doesn't matter. You're playing a different ball game than what you think. You're when money backs things, they'll squash you. So this is not for, this is just in general for people know. When you verbally bash somebody on social media, people can retaliate. And the most powerful thing is retaliation through financing. Because suing somebody, when I sued that kid with my 6 patents, it cost me $85,000. And you know what happened? Nothing. He sold my product for over a year, free and clear, produced 6 times that amount, undercut me on purpose to accumulate cash before the lawsuit cleared on the back end. So people don't truly understand what's possible. You know what I'm saying? And when he sued me for defamation, he not only mentioned me, he mentioned everybody on social media that supported me also, because the buck doesn't stop. And a court case like that, you can put anybody in there. It doesn't matter. I call it a he said, she said lawsuit, because there's no proof, a case, and everything's documented on social media. So I'm just saying, like, there's ramifications between if people want to pop off, you know what I'm saying, and accuse people of something. And what happens is if I sue somebody and they live in a different state, that court case is in my state, not yours. So you have to hire a Texas lawyer to fight the court case. So you know how expensive that is when you're out of state and you have to deal with stuff out of state. So it's just a pre-warning between people who want to vocal their opinion super bad against a company. You know, thank God the PRX situation ended up the way it did. You know what I'm saying? But I think he knows now, you know what I'm saying? Since he visited it and I think you were there with him, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't want that for anybody, because it doesn't help anybody. It just hurts everybody.
Yeah, it sounds like a lose-lose.
It totally is.
But I mean, I want your perspective on this. So I think this happened before you were probably involved with the home gym community. So Rogue came out with a similar product to the Mutant Metals UDA, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah,
and there was a huge.
I wasn't involved.
So
I can only imagine.
There was a huge outbreak, and it was it's definitely like a big company taking a small business idea, and I mean the issue is the Garage Gym Reviews Facebook group is very powerful. It's very powerful.
Yes.
If a post takes up, or if a post takes off, I imagine 100 to 200,000 people see it, and that can really damage a brand.
Yeah.
So I think there's power. There is a it's necessary to understand the power of the community. It really is.
I agree with you, and I think Rogue sells his product now, right?
Yeah, they ended up coming together. I think Rogue had a huge backlash.
Yeah.
And they ended, I don't know. I did a podcast with them, and, it does seem like it was a misunderstanding, at least that's what's being expressed now. It's a big company. Who knows what got lost in the weeds or who saw what.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a happy story. But I think that people don't want to see people just copy and take from them. I'm not saying you copied. I'm just saying just trying to tell you go ahead.
Let's use that for an example, right? So that was a backlash. I don't know what product Rogue made or what was the name of it. I don't know what the button head is with that, but I'm assuming it was a dip bar that had removable bars for the most part, right? And then he created it. But I don't know, Mutant Metal sales, I'm sure they're a little bit better. But at the same time, in my opinion, I don't know the financial details. In my personal opinion, other than the exposure of Mutant Metals being on the Rogue and having exposure to their demographic of customer, I don't necessarily think it was a good business choice, because Rogue is collecting all the emails from this thing, right? They're doing all the marketing, but yet they still have a similar product right next to it, which I owned, the Velociraptor or whatever it's called. And the branding gets taken away from Mutant Metals and all pushed to Rogue. So was it a good choice for Mutant Metals to actually allow Rogue to do it because of the controversy? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? In the long term of scheme of things, for the most part. So on the business aspect of it, which people don't think about, they just look at the face value. I'm always looking at the long-term value, because having emails is a powerful tool, but yet Rogue has all the emails and can push all their other products. And then let's just arbitrarily say, which is probably not the case, that Mutant Metals is getting a 50% royalty, but Rogue is making way more than that because they have all the marketing power internally that Mutant Metals never got from the sale of his product. Does that make sense? So,
yeah,
I mean,
interesting perspective.
Knowledge is power. And if you think in the short term, you're going to lose because it's a long-term game. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'd be curious to see Mutant Metal's sales differences before and after, or what they are now, or if they're slowly trending down because the hype is over, rather than he has his own little brand, but at the same time, it's just him. So maybe it's just residual income he's getting, and to kind of like relieve the stress so he can work on other stuff. But who really knows? But those are all the things that run through my head. You know what I'm saying? When companies collaborate, like the trend is like, oh, I want to collaborate. Well, okay, it depends what's going on. You know what I'm saying? The booty band thing that I think Fringe did, that booty box, that's a great collaboration, because that young lady has no intentions of manufacturing or having a company that makes gym equipment. She's theoretically an influencer. She just needs a company to manufacture and distribute that product. Perfect bond there, right? But when another company teams up with a bigger company, that bigger company wins in the end because of everything I said prior. And then that pulls the branding and everything off of them and puts all the light onto the company who's assuming the product and distribution of it. You know, Kabuki sells their bar on Rogue at Rogue. I think Kabuki sells that product and Rogue's manufacturing it. You know, where's all the demographic going? Straight to Rogue. Who's Kabuki? I don't know. Everybody forgot because it's on Rogue's website. You know what I'm saying? And then over time, as new people come into the market, they won't know who Kabuki is. They'll just know that Rogue makes a bar called Kabuki. You know what I'm saying? So you really have to think about these choices prior. When you're small, you're like, oh my God, rep or Rogue selling my stuff. Oh my gosh, I made it, right? But they're taking your potential long-term growth aspect of it as a brand and all that stuff. Because you want people to come to your website, not to theirs, to yours, because you collect all these polls. It's really similar. If you're not collecting the polls and I'm collecting the polls, you're asking me for the polls, and who has control? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah, I think you make a good point and then I think you make good points, and I think each situation is different. You know, specifically for Mutant Metals, they're obviously both very well-made, American-made equipment, but one is, one's Rogue mass manufactured, whereas his is, small, is a perfectly polished and custom product that you can get. So, who knows? Yes.
Yeah. I think because of the situation Mutant Metals is in, I think his wife has health issues, and my heart goes out to him, and I've been down that road before. That takes the load off of his plate, right? So he's not focusing on this, so he can focus on the other things, and it kind of works out in that scenario. But I'm just saying, if you're a company and you want to do that, just think about the long-term game that you want to be in. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of variables you need to think about before you relinquish, the brand power to some other company, and that will assume. Because like I said, there's people leaving and there's people coming in, and the people coming in don't know, and the people leaving are not telling, and it's just a cycle, and eventually you'll be forgotten, and that product will be forgotten. You know what I'm saying? And they'll forget who made it. They'll just think that's the name of it. So
yeah. All right. What about? Let's move on to you are. I mean, it's just a slight change. You're making your products in China, right?
So every product I make, I bid it in America to try to have it made here, but it never works out financially.
Let's just hear that. Let's explain. And then, so my original question was just going to be, can you help explain like how
I can, I don't go ahead.
Just your general take on USA made versus import, but it would be, I think first it would be great to hear what's your process. Mentioning bidding within the US is super interesting, so I'd love to hear how that works.
I owned Ragu Fabrication before. I had $1.5 million in machinery. We did everything internally. We designed, welded, everything internally. So it's not like I'm not new to manufacturing in the States. I know more about manufacturing than it's disgusting. So I own the press brake, the laser, the CNC machine, everything. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not a virgin to it, but I understand what it costs. And that being said, I don't have the machines anymore. So I have to rely on the laser cutter to cut the stuff. Now, if I had my machines, I can make it in the United States, because when you make a product, a raw goods come in, and from that raw goods, you pay your shop first in the machines, and then you create a product. But it's like two different organizations. So I ran Ragu as is if Ragu, how do I put that? Well, let's say Ragu Manufacturing 1 was the production side, which was the laser cutter, the CNC machines, and all that stuff. And Ragu Fabrication 2 was the retail side. So in Ragu Fabrication 1, we manufactured, the laser gets paid, the employees get paid, the press brake gets paid, the overhead gets paid. And then Ragu Fabrication 2 purchases that product at a certain price and then redistributes it to the market. So that's how I operated. So we ran our laser at the time. I probably would, it'd be more expensive now, at $250 an hour, and it gets charged by the second. That laser gets charged by the second because it's so fast. And when you're cutting parts, it's called a nest based on a 5x10 sheet. There's a nest time, how long it takes to cut. So I can calculate $250 an hour divided by an hour in seconds, and then multiply that by the laser runtime, and then I get my costs. And then the press brake makes money for bending, and then so forth, so on. So because of that, if I had my machinery, I can make things in the States because the machines are getting paid. You know what I'm saying? And then I can buy it at a discounted rate and then resell it regularly. But because I don't own the machinery, I am paying that laser cutter's rates, which now are $450 an hour. And my rates were lower because I own the machinery, and I didn't have to make a huge profit because I was making a profit off the sale of my products because we were internal. So I was still paying all the overhead here, but the products sales were actually making the company the profit side. So I would be able to afford it at a certain price, sell the product at a certain price. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's different than what you're doing today.
Did I lose you?
Did you hear me? Basically, just you're good. You're good. Basically, what you're saying is, okay, yeah, there must be a little bit of a lag.
I think so.
But basically, it sounds like, with your automotive, you don't have the ability to set that up today. At least
I don't.
At least yet. So
no.
the price difference. There's a price difference. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give an example. So if you could explain, an arbitrary product, right? A knick-knack. So I 3D CAD everything. I don't have to pay me. I weld everything. I don't have to pay me. But to make this knick-knack, let's just say a competing knick-knack on the market sells for $68, right? And I designed my own version of the knick-knack, really similar to what the function is, and just to get it cut is $100. And then I have to weld it, powder coat it, and market it, and now it's a $125 product after all the overhead to get it made here. Obviously I can do a better job than overseas manufacturing because my heart is more into it than them, but that's making 50 to 100 products at a time. So that the bulk cost, the bulk manufacturing discount is nominal. You'll destroy that in shipping because shipping rates go up and down like weekly. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? The arm wraps, I literally shipped it. It weighs 3 ounces, $5. $5 an arm wrap. You just get nailed everywhere you go. It's just everybody is hammering you. It's just left and right taxation. And then the consumer ends up paying for it in the end. And believe it or not, making products overseas isn't as inexpensive as people perceive. with the manufacturing there and all said and done, and then the freight charges that you get that fluctuate at a frequently rate on top of the shipping rates internally here that always fluctuate, everything goes up and down. And it's like, you're like, oh my God, you're tiptoeing, but you can't change your prices to the consumer based on the fluctuations in the market. So what do? Do you want a company or not? Do you want product or not? Sure, I love the made in America. Believe me, I could do a 60 times better job. And I would love to do it with all my heart, but nobody's going to buy it because it's too expensive. And the talking heads are always talking about cheap, 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 rather than the function and the quality. I'd rather hear a dialogue that is in a sense that says, hey, look, this is on the inexpensive side, but this little bit more expensive has these key features that this less expensive one doesn't. Let the customer decide. Do you just want something to function, or do you want something that's going to last forever with high quality? And then you're adding value in comparisons. That is never discussed. It's just like, I want made in America, but I want it cheap. Good luck, bro. You'll be waiting forever. You'll be in the grave before that happens, because it's not going to happen. So I think people need to discuss more of the added value to a product based on like, oh, they have bushings in this one as opposed to this version doesn't, so it's not as smooth, and compare like the quality difference, not the price. Everybody, if you can afford it, cool. If you can't, cool. We're all grow in life, and we can afford nice things at certain times and not at other times, and just let the consumer decide, rather than keep on reiterating price and price. What happens is you're always driving cheap into people's heads. And unfortunately, and I see it changing slowly, but for decades and decades, gym equipment was considered to be crap and no value across the board because it was all made in China, unless it was a Nautilus machine or a hammer strength. It was always cheap crap or commercial grade. Well, the gap's been closed, but the rhetoric hasn't met the gap. You know what I'm saying? Rather than surplus strength spotter arms, right? Rather than saying they're made in America, I personally would say, hey, look, these are the qualities built into there, and that's what you're paying for, rather than a spotter arm. If he made it special and he marketed it and said, hey, look, I designed this, and this is the key features, and that's what adds the value to it, rather than it's just a spotter arm, I could just buy one that's made overseas that does the same function. You know what I'm saying? And hit on those keynotes rather than price. I think price is so gouged into people's heads. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about what's built into the product, what makes it special, what makes it do this. Why do I want to spend a little bit more on this? And what does this do for me as opposed to this? Or like, hey, I can't afford that nice thing now, but I'm going to work on it and try to acquire that because it has this and this and this type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So like roller J cups, oh my, there's super nice ones, and they're just crap ones that you're buying it again. You're going to buy them again. They wear out. It's just inevitable. I see it. They look like egg shapes, and they're all floppy. And then you have ones like Bridge Built are super nice. I think Irwin's Fitness is like the competition between that. And they're going to last longer than if you got like a Bells of Steel that is just trying to meet a price point. I think the demographic is a different consumer between entry level and then like higher end level type of thing, because after all, this is a hobby, and hobbies are expensive. I don't care what the hobby is. It could be quilting. You're going to drop some dime on quilting. Those damn things are like 15 grand if you want to quilt a big blanket digitally, So this is my perception of it. And I've been thinking about it, and I think this is the culture of what gym equipment used to be in the past has dynamically changed, but the talking points have not caught up with it, essentially, So I talk too much.
I mean, I think no, you're good. I think the at least like within the most passionate home gym owners, the hardcore groups, people do understand
Uh,
the, like, especially buy once, cry once. That's a big one. And I think most people do understand
yeah.
that, the more expensive ones come with features that,
Mm,
the cheaper ones don't. And sometimes when you're building out a
mm,
home gym, you want to just get something that'll get you by. And then there's other times,
right.
and maybe, everyone has a different, like, some people have more money than others and are willing to
Yeah,
spend
yeah.
more, and they'll
Believe me,
buy.
I was sleeping in my car at one point in time, so I totally understand all of it. You know what I'm saying? So, and
Right.
I,
Like there's teachers in this community, and there's
uh-huh.
like, I don't know, investment bankers, I'm sure, somewhere, and doctors
Yeah,
and
I'm
other,
gonna,
like, health, and there's also
hold,
people who do this for a living.
yeah, we gotta ambush my kids for a phone charger real quick. Hold on. Uh, just give me a minute.
Yeah, we can wrap this up too sometime soon.
I, I, that interview you did with the guy who bought Kabuki, I really liked that interview, because it was so like legit.
Yes, it was just real.
It was completely real.
All right, so we've discussed, like, there's a lot of different ways different companies can provide value.
Right.
Whether it's like making that premium made in America product, or selling something for lower prices so that
Mhm.
you can get people into the market, and
And
it varies in between that as well. I'd be curious to hear just like how you fit into the broader home gym community over like the next 5 or so years. How you see yourself?
so based on my personality, I'm a more high-end type person. I think rep is there, and then the next step above would be Rogue. Currently, Rogue would be at the top. I really love the detail and everything Rogue does between the plastic they use. I can only judge that based on my dip bar that I bought, and the thought they put behind their products. It seems really well thought out that we're going to use this type of plastic. This is the fit and finish we're going to have, and that's just the way it is, type of thing. Um, I think Rep, since their inception, is literally trying to get to that point, but their shelf is price point. But I think their capability is there. They're just trying to hit that price point, because I see Rep trying to expand. I saw on their website that they're catering to F6, that fitness
F45,
company.
F45.
So you have to think like business wise. Rogue supports the CrossFit community and like the most ginormous thing I've ever seen in my life, and they're not leaving that, right? And then they most likely, under my pretense, is they have military contracts also, and because they're made in the United States. I think Sarnex also has internal American contracts that keep them that quality high, and they're not a home gym company, a company that has a bigger corporate market. You know what I'm saying? And I think Rep is pushing that way. As for me, as far as quality wise, I want to be in between Rep and then Rogue, because I think I could design better than Rep, but I can't get to the Rogue point because I don't own the machinery. But if I could, I think I could compete against that quality level. The stuff is made over the seas. I do weld some stuff myself. If there's some products I do make here, but it's just me, and I can't make everything. It's near impossible. But I am super anal retentive about what goes into the products and how they're constructed, and it's just a constant battle back and forth. That's my goal. I'm not a Titan Fitness competitor. I'm not a rebranding competitor. I don't sell a bench. I design my own flat bench and my own 3/4 inch bench with a foot plate on it. I had the prototype in there. I just designed, what is it? A glute ham roller that it looks like nobody's, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's super nice. I've never used one. I asked tons of trainers on advice of pros and cons between the ones they have. They bought them all, and I kind of designed everything into that to solve the issues that they're having. But that's pretty much where I'm at. with that. Like, I think the private label thing is, gosh, it's like being in the clothing company. It's rough. It's rough because anybody look at Coop's reviews on benches. I let's just say there's 40, 30 of them are private label that look identical. You know, like who do you buy from? You know, whoever's closer to you, whoever's cheaper. It's just a never-ending battle in that aspect. I want no part of that stuff. So I'll come up with a bench, but honestly, I'm just like, how do I want it to look? Because a bench is a bench. You know, it serves a purpose. It's other than the pad and thickness and all the other stuff. Like, it's a bench. You know, how much different can you actually
Right.
make it? It's to build all these accessories, and then that's a whole different animal to tackle on that aspect of it.
Yeah. And then lastly, how about the home gym community in general? How do you see that evolving over the next 5 years or so as well?
I've been contemplating this to see where I need to drive the company and where it's going. I do think there was a huge stall because free money got pumped into the market and everybody had excess liquidity to spend, and frivolously, I should say. I do see an uptrend based on the current situation with the government and the new president arising and the pro-America, pro-growth, pro-manufacturing happening. And I think the economy is going to bounce back like you've never seen it before because they're going to actually want to promote production in the States, hopefully. And maybe that'll give a good transition for these companies to bring it internally. We'll see how hard that gets pushed on that. And I think that the home gym community and the companies will grow with that financial American growth on there, you know, and I see it happening. It just comes down to supply and demand. Like, as consumers, the economy is just the cost of goods sold. So as people buy more, people work more, people make more, the prices are not going down. It'll never happen. You know, it'll never happen again. And hopefully inflation has been sustained and curbed and will level out so we can see what kind of playing field we're actually living in so we can move on with our lives on that. So I think it'll sustain. I think honestly, like, the growth of the home gym community is on the influencers' shoulders, podcasters' shoulders, what kind of outreach you guys can get, what kind of different demographics you can pull in and broaden that wide base through the different product reviews that are outside of the norm. I think that's going to help build, because before this, I didn't know what a home gym was. I didn't know people had gyms in their home at all. I just knew about the commercial gym. And it's only because I had a problem, my wife was pissed out of the car all the time, that I started investigating in it. So the outreach is not there yet, and there's plenty of people to bring in, especially with the food, the bad food going on, and people trying to improve their health, you know. And you got all these boomers retiring. That's a huge market base. These boomers, if you look it up, the biggest selling product is a treadmill. Treadmill, number one on earth. It's because these older generation are retiring, they're having health problems, they want to better themselves and all that stuff. So if you draw on those consumers, they have children, and it's a snowball effect. So, you know.
So that, what you just said about like the, you know, influencers, the key people within the top content creators, just so you know, that is something that I have also noticed. And that's something that I think about Home Gym Con. So I think Home Gym Con, so the way I think about this is that we have a huge opportunity to show people how much a home gym can help their lives. And
bigger than you probably can fathom, you know?
Right. So I feel like my big role right now is with Home Gym Con. So the more people that we can get to Home Gym Con who actually show up showing their cool stuff, and the more content creators, even, or just like the passionate community members who go to Home Gym Con and share what they see. Like in June, we have the ability to get millions and millions and millions of impressions to the world about the home gym. So it really is there really is a good opportunity for everybody to band together and show that. I think it's a key moment. I really do think that. There's obviously other ways to do that, with good reviews, with good content, with
Yeah.
motivational people. There's a ton of ways to do that. And I personally see all of this again. Nobody else has said that to me, and it's something that I've been really thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to say like CrossFit is a competitor, or like fitness is a competitor, because I do think like there's worlds where everyone can do both.
Yes.
Everyone has different styles,
Huh.
but I do think there are more people, especially with more houses going up, with this
Mm-hmm.
next generation of people who want to live longer. They want to be healthy. They want to live
Mm-hmm.
longer,
Mm-hmm.
healthier, longer lives. I think, just about everyone has a home gym if you want that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then also just spotlight on, oh, hey, there are all of these companies truly innovating, making a lot of good options for people.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is not necessarily like you said, a bench is a bench. This is that.
Yeah.
This is that. There's like a lot of fitness has been around, machines have been around for many, many years, and like true innovation is really hard to come by. But value
Yes.
innovation is important too.
Yes.
So just like, I think that's how I look at it anyway. So
Yeah.
that's like, so I
Yeah.
think that was cool that you brought that up.
I just watched a video that some influencer in the gym world, like Gymshark style, went to Mr. Beast's house. He has a
So
gigantic
good. I
gym.
loved that.
So,
I
I mean,
saw it.
like, it's there and you're creating something that is drawing that in. I think the nuance is because when you scale at a level in which I think you want to be, there's an overhead cost to vendors that have to get trickled out theoretically. Because I was listening to a podcast with you that you don't really want to go to LA, but unfortunately, like stuff like that, the scale is a necessary evil. And who shows up will show up, and who can't, who can't. But it's not going to be one. It's going to be 3 a year. You're going to have it. You're going to have one on the East Coast, the West Coast, and the Central, maybe Texas, or where you're having it now. It's going to scale in that sense. So you can. That's pretty much how the shows go on. Just based on my experience of off-road shows, I used to travel the country doing 15 shows a year, and different events, and all these companies would travel. So sometimes we would sponsor the event and give out prizes to give away because we couldn't make it, and then some we would have to trailer all of our products to the shows and set up the booth and sell product there, which isn't what you can do because my products are smaller. It'd be really hard doing the gym space to sell product unless it was small. But we used to give discounts at shows where you come to the show, there's a special show promo code, so you can go online, just buy it, and we'll ship it to you. You know what I'm saying? So nobody wants to carry that crap. And then when you're going all the way to a show, it's really hard to get there, let alone bring back hundreds of pounds worth of metal, and they have to unload it. So we would just give discount codes, special one for the show, and then just buy it online and we'll ship it out like normal, and stuff like that. It's totally plausible. I'm always thinking big. I'm always thinking downstream on everything. So, and one of my best friends, this is his job. He puts on big shows. He owned the biggest weed convention in California and sold it for millions of dollars, and then he wasn't done, so he started it again. It bogged you in mind what kind of shows he puts on. So I kind of picked his brain a bit, thinking of you on what's going on. So it's totally plausible that to get the outreach, it could be super big. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm
we'll see.
excited.
I want to grow it the right way. I want to I don't want it to be the world's biggest convention next year.
So
I think get the right people there, and
yeah, unfortunately, the reality of the world, as soon as you start gaining traction and people start liking what you're doing, there's big companies that do this for a living, and they'll start treading on your water.
For
really
sure.
fast, really fast. And then that's when it's not a means to an end, it's a means to scaling at a rapid pace and setting up that infrastructure. And if you can set up the infrastructure early by having 3 tiers across different coasts and then the central, that infrastructure there, you just have to grow it together theoretically. And I realize it's expensive and the funding's different from West Coast. One of his shows, just internet service for him as alone to have to pay for internet for the rest of the vendors is $80,000. So it
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
it gets stupid.
Mhm.
It gets real really fast. You're like, oh my god, it's just fighting
Yep,
for
I
it.
can do that.
Yeah, it's just fighting for it. So
Right.
I think you have something special. It's growing fast, and you have a lot of support, and it can get there as fast as or slow as you want it to be, unless you start feeling pressure by somebody else. And then you won't have a choice theoretically, because
I know.
companies do what companies do, and they follow what they need to go to get the message out. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Reality of life.
We'll see. I know. There's undoubtedly somebody's going to try and do this in the next couple of
Yes.
years. I have
Yeah.
no doubt. Yeah.
And my friend, he had a competitors, and they competed, and they're friends, and and they get together, they have dinner, they just talk crap to each other of how one's doing better than the other, and how'd you do that, with so forth, so on. So once you get to a level of business, you know what I'm saying, and you've been through all the bumps in the road, and none of the other petty crap matters anymore. It's pretty much like, how can we pick our brains to be successful together? Because we're here now. We're not here. We're here, and we want to get here. Because you have investment capital groups just dumping stupid money into stuff because they can. It's their business model. And once capital investment gets involved, like, oh, it's hard to catch up to that. There's just too much backing on that. They have money to lose. They don't care.
Yes.
And that's who ultimately ends up buying your company once you scale it anyway. So you could be retired, is capital investment. The exit strategy is important also.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to do this for the next 10, 20 years. I've got
Uh,
big goals, so I don't really I'm not like looking for stuff like that. Maybe something to boost it, get the right people would be helpful. But I think right now I'm the best person to run it. I think I'm the
Yeah.
one with the vision, and
Yeah.
I have the ideas ready to go. So, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's a bit,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's definitely hard. When you first did it, I was like, oh man. And I heard it was in French Lick. I was like, where's French Lick at? It was a beautiful place, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so far. And just freight alone to freight
it was
stuff.
tough. I mean,
is
I
like,
didn't have any extra
trying to
money,
contact
so
vendors of, like, the biggest issue I didn't get to go last year is because I didn't know how to ship my stuff. I know how shipping works. You have to weigh it, it has to be palletized. You have to weigh it, it and all that. And then that means I have to go to a weight scale and weigh it with the trailer, dump it off, and then go back with an empty trailer so I can get the average. It's a lot of work. And it's just me. I was like, there's no way.
yeah. Well, that stuff's a little more organized this year, and should be easier for
Yeah,
companies shipping it.
yeah, I'm driving now, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
I'm up closer because I'm in Texas. I'm fairly closer this time.
That's probably I mean, it's only an hour and a half south from where it was.
It
So
just
it's still
seemed,
pretty far for you.
yeah, it just seemed
I know, like,
it's like the East Coast. That's a different world over there, getting there. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
it was in the middle of nowhere. It was
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, but it was beautiful. I think it
Yeah.
was a great place to do the first few years. Yeah, had a lot of people, had a lot of great people. I think everybody that left knew it was going to be, there's quite a bit of potential in the future.
What really dumbfounds me, which I found out, is tons and tons of people in the East Coast have home gyms. I thought for sure sales would come out California like wildfire, and the West Coast, all on the East Coast, tons of people. It's dumbfounded
Really?
me. Yeah, in my last business, all my business came from the West Coast. It was rare I sold stuff on the East Coast. So it's like a polar change, and it's just crazy to me. maybe because it's colder there longer, so they're cooped up and they can't leave, or I don't know what the case is. Maybe it's more sunny and accessible to land on the West Coast. I'm not sure, but it's super interesting, So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And the data I see is, the data Instagram gives you isn't great. It's like,
uh
because if I could see all of the followers by state for Garage Gym Experiment, that'd be a great sample
yeah,
size. Like it'd be a great view, but you can only see like the top cities where, it's just wherever the most population is.
yeah, yeah,
But yes, I would love to see that. I've actually had companies reach out and see like, maybe companies thinking about coming over here. They've been like, "Hey, can I see your Instagram following by place so you
yeah,
know where to set up shop?" And I don't I can show you my website traffic data, but it's tough to read.
yeah, yeah. It's just crazy to me. It's
Yeah.
live, you learn, huh? Learn new crap every day. So,
Yeah.
well, I appreciate the call. I could talk for hours, and
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I appreciate you doing this. I know it's not easy to like come out and like talk about like controversy, and it's not necessarily easy conversation for me to have either.
Yeah.
But I do think conversations like this will help us drive the industry forward. I'm looking forward to seeing what people have to say.
Yeah, and uh, you tell me when I'll be available. I'd love and love and love to have a conversation about me as a company in general, like us companies. I'm bonding it about if you're an influencer, how to approach a company, about doing content, because go about it, and then if you're a person who has ideas how to approach a company with a game plan, and and what intentions you have and what you seek to get out of it and stuff like that, and what it actually takes to develop a product and how you play a role in that, and what the company has to do to release that product and your idea from point A to point B. I'd love to talk about that because people just don't have the experience and the knowledge of that. And, as a company, I'm sure everybody, they're like, hey, I'm an influencer. Cool. I make videos too, type of thing. So and just how to navigate that, then just bombard them. And because me, as well as other companies, don't want to shoot people down and be rude and say, hey, you have 100 followers. Like, I'm not doing anything for you type of thing, but just how to approach that. I think that'd be a great podcast to help people navigate that
Yeah,
space.
yeah, we can do that, or lost you.
All right, I did end up losing Mario. I appreciate him taking the time to do this. It was a long conversation. Would love to hear what you all think about it. Feel free to throw some comments in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. So thanks for listening. Thanks again, Mario.